Thanks for coming in. I know some of y'all have experienced this before and some of you guys haven't, but I'm just going to do a little bit of a spiel and feel free to ask questions if you have any. My name is Corinne. We are going to be working with the Akashic Records tonight. The Akashic Records are basically just like a beautiful place of energetic knowing. Edgar Casey is the guy who popularized it back in the day, and he, you can look him up, he's really interesting and fascinating. But basically, it's like a flow of energetic knowing, space between knowing and not knowing. And it's a really yummy access point to find out all sorts of energetic things. So we all have Akashic Records. It's kind of the space where our soul is dispatched, in my mind. But beyond just individuals, there are collective records and records of animate and inanimate objects. So tonight we're going to be connecting with the Divine Feminine, and more specifically connecting around wholeness, what wholeness means. Basically what I'll do is I'll take us through a short guided meditation and get us nice and calm and centered and grounded, and then I'll just move right into saying a blessing that'll connect me to this space, and I'm sure y'all probably feel it. Everybody has a different experience. Some folks can energetically tune in and get visuals on their own, which you're welcome and encouraged to do. And then from there, I usually get some opening imagery. A lot of stuff comes through in images and metaphor, especially with the more abstract concepts that I'm finding with the Divine Feminine versus like individual people's records. And then from there, I'll share that information with you, but then the floor is open and you can ask whatever questions you like. You can switch topics around. I try and keep it like kind of group-minded and focused on wholeness, but whatever that means to you. So we don't have to have segues or whatever. And then the information for me like flows pretty quickly, and then it'll just stop and turn off. Last time we had like an activity thrown in the middle of it. It was pretty fun. And then I've got crystals tonight. This is Desert Rose. I should have remembered more facts about it maybe, but feel free to grab one, and it will be, I just felt like the right fit tonight. So feel free to take one with you. My concept is that, I don't know, crystals are energetic beings in and of themselves. They will hold and share information and knowledge, and I feel like it's just like a little buddy that can kind of hang out and info bathe with you, and you can take it home, and then that's kind of fun. So, does anyone have any questions before we get started? Yeah, we'll probably go, I brought my watch this time, we'll probably tie up around 8, shortly before 8, to give everyone a time concept. And I am recording it tonight. It does take me a little while to kind of zhuzh the recording all together, but if you leave your email on the sheet at the front, I'll make sure to email it to you when I'm done. And let me know in the future, thanks, if the recordings feel helpful or not. I'm thinking about not doing them because it's interesting, but it's also a lot of work, and I don't know if it, yeah. So, open to feedback in that regard and all of the regards. So, yeah. Well, then let's jump in. If you guys want to take a deep breath or two, we'll just do a short little meditation. Taking a couple cleansing breaths. And allowing your awareness continue to flow from your mind down into your body. Every breath in, bringing in more peace and calm. And every exhale, releasing what you don't need to be carrying. As your awareness comes in and comes down from your mind, through your face, down your throat. Feel your awareness come into your body. As it moves through your chest, out through your elbows, arms, and fingertips. Kind of wiggling around and making its way deeper with every breath. Into the pit of your stomach. Just loosening and moving things around. As you allow your body to relax. Shift around as it needs to. Feeling your awareness and this energy come into your hips. Loosening any tension. As you feel your awareness come into your femurs, feeling energy flowing, bringing strength to your knees. Down your shins, finding a rootedness in the heels of your feet. And noting as your breath finds its way all the way from where it enters your body, deep into the heels of your feet. As you feel your soles connect to the earth through your shoes and socks and the rug on the floor beneath us. Feeling your feet connect to the planet. Feeling the shape that your footprints would make in the earth if you were standing barefoot. And feel the earth and the life that it holds. Just come up to meet your feet, whether it's mosses, grasses, friendly insects that you don't mind. Just feel the earth welcome your feet as you stand upon her. Feel this connection grow and deepen. And feel your body become stronger and more at ease as you feel a reciprocation of energy between you. Between your body and the planet we inhabit. Between your body and this place that provides our physical home. Between your body and the earth itself. Letting this rootedness continue to flow through your body. Go ahead and allow your breath to find its natural rhythm. And go ahead and let your awareness come back to the space we're in. So go ahead and say this blessing and open the records. My center with your center, our center with all centers, our center as the one center. I enter the realm of masters, teachers, and loved ones of the divine feminine, and match our hearts and minds with theirs. Let us find, through joy and wisdom, the ability to open the universe and ourselves to greater possibility and deeper love. Eternal Source, fill our hearts with clarity and sacred power, and show us the divine feminine's place of balance. Here as now, as we become one with the whole, when we're complete, release us in love and admiration, keeping our energy raised. The records are open. All right, y'all, come back and find your awareness. Recognize all the things that might be coming through your noggins and perception. The thing that came through to me was almost almost like a Vegas dancer. You know how they have these big headpieces with big ostrich feathers? It's like this big pink ostrich feather headpiece, this concept almost of like, gills of fish and like salamanders and amphibians that have external gills underwater. When they're underwater, they're very fibrous and very sensitive. And it's almost like this fibrous nature of the gills or the ostrich feathers. It's this concept of being able to almost perceive in the atmosphere wherever we're at emotional intelligence in this space, this sensitivity. There's an importance of being in the correct environment with this. You don't want to necessarily take a fish or a salamander out of the water and expect for it to breathe the same way. It just doesn't work like that. So too, I think, is our concept and understanding of the divine feminine to be explored most freely in certain spaces where it feels conducive, warm, safe, and held. The other thing I saw was just like a very thick gold chain piece of jewelry. I think the importance here I'm hearing is the links of a chain being together. Not necessarily the concept of the weakest link, I think, is the first thing that comes into my ear there, but the concept of the strength and bond that we have together, and this concept of a circle too. So I feel like usually the opening imagery makes more sense, or something, it like sets the tone or something, and we'll come back to it later. So if it doesn't make sense to me right now, I guess I should say. And if it doesn't make sense to you, that's okay too. And maybe it won't make sense by the end of the night, but yeah. So I'll go ahead and open the floor for any questions, and we'll just see what comes through. Would anyone like to start us off or share experiences that you guys have had in this opening portion?
I gotta say, I really felt this, especially during that meditation. I did really feel grounded.
Yeah.
And it's always been easy to really visualize this when someone's like doing guided meditation. So this really did play a part. Like, it was really, really powerful.
Thank you for that feedback.
Thank you.
I'm realizing also now that you mentioned that this is like very much, it's also like pretty fibrous.
Yes.
And like the
Yeah.
feathers, this is really looking like that right now.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. I wonder what that's about. Yeah. I know starting us off is always the most, I mean, the most challenging. This is the, what do they call it? This static friction, like when you're moving a dresser that's on carpet, it takes more force to get it to start moving than to keep it moving. This first question is always the hardest.
What was the topic tonight? That's what I was trying to remember.
Yeah, coming to wholeness is what I got from her. Specifically elegance and poise, because I opened the records with her, or I'm going to refer to the Divine Feminine as her, but yeah, and I asked what modifiers or what she wanted to talk about, and elegance and poise in self was what came through. This concept of establishing and finding a wholeness in self. Last month we explored death and rebirth, and there very much has been a purging process between now and then, especially in this last week specifically. We were actually talking about that too. This is an importance of purging the not self, purging the self of what is not self, what we carry that is not self. And once this is flushed and clarified, the value of coming to and finding a remembrance of all the individual pieces, parts, and patterns of the wholeness of self. Finding the parts of self that have yet been covered up, that have been, I mean, I was seeing like fall leaves, you know, like in movies or in whatever, this image of like leaves will come up against and obscure things, or, you know, there's a dramatic scene of the camera comes to the tombstone and like the leaves blow away. And it's this powerful moment of reclaiming the parts of ourselves that, although they have not moved, they perhaps have been obscured from our conscious.
On purpose.
Yeah.
I feel like, to me, your opening is something that I've been going through for the past week, but I think as a newbie on the wave, you know, it's a lot at one time. But for me, it almost feels like that chain is every part of us that have led up to now, and are we vibrationally getting ready for the next step? We have to be whole in order to move into that next area.
I'm seeing, I hear what you're saying, and I'm feeling the need to tweak and modify, because
Yeah.
I'm seeing this chain. You're right about the chain, but this concept of it is always under construction, and it feels very much always under repair. It's like, they say this about Chicago, it's either winter or construction, right? There are the two seasons.
Yeah.
And this concept of I see the like construction, like men at work, like that sign, our hearts, minds, bodies will always be under construction. Perhaps not always, but while we are on this planet and while we are experiencing experience, we'll be under construction. And I see this necklace almost being built up, like chainmail, or broken and retied, or links being replaced with new, different portions of self. Yeah.
tell you what, that's one of the concepts I struggle with. Is everything talks about shadow work and working, finding your problems and stuff, and you feel like you get to a good point, and if you stop doing that, because you know you're never finished, but if you get to a good point, you can't just stop and enjoy that point, because you feel like you're in denial of something. Like they build up all these different things that kind of make anybody feel guilty for actually feeling good.
Mm.
And
But couldn't
how
your
do you
shadow
balance
work
that?
be as simple as a thought that goes through that really shouldn't be there, and then
It
you
is.
can contemplate on
Kind of like
it?
working through it and like
Yeah, it could be so minute,
touching,
or it could be huge.
I've come so far, but if I enjoy that one moment, it feels like I'm not continuing on in that journey.
There's so many different layers put on it, yeah, there's so many different layers put on it to make you feel guilty about actually feeling good, I think. And
But this is the thing, it's meant to be worn. They're saying it's meant to be worn. This necklace, this chain is meant to be worn. You take it out into the world and out into the sun, and you let it be magnificent, like big Leo energy of like, you know? And then it is through the reflection and perception and interaction with others that you become aware of missing links or broken links. There feels an importance of not always being in the workshop, like you're saying, like as an artist, artisanally crafting this wearable art, one must actually step into the world, which I'm hearing is terrifying at times, to put something into the space of the world that does not feel complete or done, or it also is different from what we're used to when we are in this world that says production, and you have a process you produced and then it's done and you distribute it to the masses. This is not the concept, because when it comes to ourselves, we are not giving ourselves never to be returned. We are merely stepping into shared space and collaborating with our presence and time. And therefore this collaboration and presence kind of running the oil through the system, you know, like like with a car or something, you put oil in it, and it's like you got to see how it runs. You take it for a run around the block and like see how it performs, and then we shift and change more. And the idea of the car being at the mechanic of our bodies, minds, souls, having inner work and shadow work being done, it's not just the labor part of it. It is the zipping around the block. It's the like Ferris Bueller's Day Off, like the garage folks taking the car for a joyride around it. Like, this is the part we can forget, and is literally the whole reason why we would keep a car in tune, is to take it out and to go do incredible, amazing, fun things into the world. So it is important to not lose sight of this, but to understand that it's not necessarily that we're stopping our work. We don't have to feel guilty about stopping the work because we want to go on a joyride. It truly is it goes hand in hand. It's like two links coming together, you know. It's you can't have one without the other. You can't, need both. And that this is how it continues, because then I see like the chain is born of like adding more links and adding more links, and each experience, each foray out into the world, and then return back to the garage and out into the world, like each one of those creates a new link almost, and lengthens this chain, and then this chain becomes longer and can encompass and encircle even more beauty and succulence in our lives. We have a deeper capacity and wealth and well of experience the more we do this, but we will not get there. I feel like they're tapping me on the face right now, because I feel like I know I fall prey to this a lot of like, I'm just gonna do the work and I'm never gonna go out into the world. They're like, no, you need to go out into the world, put it out there. And it's not going to be complete, and it's not going to look the same 6 months from now. It's going to be very different. You could scrap the whole thing. right? You could be making like a chainmail collar and like you're like, no, I want a whole breastplate, like let's do it, you know. It could be, and the neck could become the sleeve, and this is the value and importance of like not attachment that we did talk a lot about last month, of this like dancing with the chaos of what moves us, dancing with emotional complexity. Does this make sense? Yeah. Does that answer your question? I can't remember what it was.
That's just something that's missing in a lot of these different
Yeah.
methodologies or belief systems or whatever, where there's never an enjoying the work that's been put in. It's always just constant work and grind. And
I disagree. I think there is enjoyment, and that's kind of, that's why we're here. Is
I
to-
believe that. I'm just saying, like a lot of these, like that warrior goddess,
No.
there's never any just, you've arrived. You've never arrived. That's, that was a big thing they kept going that whole weekend. You never arrived. Well, you get that, but at some point you gotta enjoy the work you've done and stuff, and I find that,
Yeah.
I find that in a lot of these different, I've read so many different types of thought processes. There's never any settling. There's always just growing, and at some point I feel like there needs to be settled.
But does anybody else feel like you get a wave of knowledge, and then there's like a cooling down period, or like a processing? So you continue to live, but you're still processing what's been given to you.
I'm going through that now with reading. Like I'll read for weeks or months, and then I just like don't pick up a book, because you have to like percolate and let it
Yeah.
soak
I
in.
went through like 2 journals and just like researching stuff and like writing research, and last week it's just like it's been cut out like completely. But yeah, it's just, I noticed that today. It's like, why haven't I come back to?
I like how she described it as like a slingshot. You pull back and then eventually it just lets go and something comes out. I like that analogy you used one time.
The visual that I got as you guys are speaking is like a wave that comes up on the beach, and the water, you can tell some flows back out, but some flows through the sand, and then this concept of like either it's washing up shells or all the little are they not insects, but the all the critters in the sand that will come up and go down. And there is this concept that there are seasons of life where the waves are coming quickly, and like you're not getting a lot of integration time in between, and it's like, you're just like, you're not drowning, but you feel like it is important to time your breath at precisely. And then there are other like more leisurely strolls where the wave comes up and then back, and then it's a while before the next one comes up. And that all of these inform all of these processes, like all of these not patterns, proficiencies. I hear create links in the chain, and you are going to be learning different skills at different times. The slower ones might teach you the appreciation of the minutia, the small details that I hear really let your craftsmanship shine. Whereas the quick ones, like sometimes you just need to get shit done, and it's about quantity and covering area of self. This is important, especially when it comes to like maintaining safety or just having fast growth. Sometimes you just need to produce a lot, and then you go back later and you have more to work with. Yeah. there is an importance also in going back to that image of like leaves being brushed out of the corner or leaves obscuring things. There's an importance of especially after a cleanse and a purge to recollect and recall in parts of self, to take account of what needs to be accounted for. And this is calling back a little bit to, I can't remember which one that we did, but this concept of calling our energy back to our bodies, and the value and importance of like, I don't know, just like doing a head count, making sure everyone's accounted for. This will help us strengthen and know what we're dealing with and be able to wield our energy more efficiently, effectively, and safely, especially when we are looking to create and co-create with the world. It is important with the world or with other people or just in general, it is important to be coming to this space with a wholeness in our bodies to really understand, like, making sure that we're not all like kneecaps and elbows, like awkward, and it collecting our energy back to us allows us to so clearly and intentionally utilize the tools of our energetic body. It was the energetic body one that I think that's right. Cool.
What kind of tools of the energetic body?
What kind of tools of the energetic body?
And you said use the tools of the energetic body, like what are those tools?
Yeah. I see like go gadget, like the numbers are endless, and it also depends on what we choose to equip ourselves with and strengthen our own individual expressions. It matters much on what we are working on that day. If we, you know, like if you get up to go to bake bread or something, like you want an apron and like maybe some flour, and like you want to make your, like you're having your kneading hands on things like this. I think there's a variation of like different, depending on what our soul is working on that day, and not even that day. I feel like it's like longer than a day, but also whatever our soul is working on that lifetime. So it's going to be very different and particular to each of us, individually, but also collectively in teams. Part of this is the role of the energetic body in drawing other people out. There is a tool or familiarity, a practice of like an energetic body, creating invitation, creating like pulling, not taffy, that's another, there's a lot of imagery that has come in other spaces tonight. Which, I don't know what that's about, so I don't need to ask about it. What they're showing me is like someone's energetic body, like really like teasing out, almost like frilling out, fluffing out, like one would, I don't know, like when you make a bed and you just like tease the edges of the sheets to like make it, you know, lay a certain way. That is a skill, that is a tool that the energetic body can practice. It's not necessarily like the energetic body is like holding a tool that's separate from itself, but it's almost like practicing something, and the energetic body becomes a tool for the, I'm hearing like the oversoul experience, or the oversoul experience, which is the, they're saying no, we don't need to go into that, they can grasp it. Okay. And yeah, you guys will ask about things that you don't know or understand, and I'm just gonna trust that. But the energetic body can exercise itself as a tool, like becomes a tool. So that's one of the ways. Another way is like penetrating confusion, nebulousness, truth. This is one that those people who have like a very exacting precision, an ability to kind of part the waters, so to speak, which arguably we all can kind of conceptualize when we're like trying to get to the middle of something or clear the fog, or like a necklace chain that's very fine that needs to be kind of spread out before you figure out how to untangle it. While this is something we all can potentially practice, there are certain energetic bodies that have been trained up and practiced in this many different ways in many different lifetimes to kind of put that tool on for the day, or that, you know, that's probably very helpful for an energetic body that's looking to understand deeper truth in social justice. You know, that is a tool that the energetic body can embody in order to serve that oversoul's desire, like thirst for social justice, for equity, for respect of all life and beings, for recognition of one another. And that same goal of social justice, equity, recognizing each other can be equally worked on, and I'm hearing can be equally tooled with an energetic body that is working to provide reflection and mirroring to people, to really help people see themselves more clearly. Those tools are both important. You wouldn't just bring one tool to the rodeo or something. And it's also not like this concept of bringing a gun to a knife show, or bringing a gun to a knife fight, where it's not like one of these tools is like, oh, whoa, it's a gun and a knife fight, you know? It's not, they carry equal weight in a way. It just depends on having them properly placed at the right place. Like if you're, like I'm seeing like a mason, and I have no idea how masonry works, but we're gonna just go with it, of like, you probably have someone cutting stones into smaller stones, and then I'm seeing like someone has a tool and is like drilling holes for like the rebar to go in and like line up. And there are people who are working on this same, not minor task, but like they're working on the same production, very much like play, like they're working on the same production, but they're using different tools. And there's a value of this, and there needs to be a recognition that we all are bringing, this is part of our wholeness. This is part of our wholeness, is recognizing the wholeness of others, and that even in our individual wholeness, we are also part of a larger wholeness. And this is the importance of really calling all of ourselves back in, and really fleshing out and pressing upon the integrity of our own individual wholeness, because it brings a greater integrity to the wholeness of the collective. Yeah. Yeah.
So I've had a vision just like that.
Really? Yes, share. Do tell us.
Just like, I don't know, I go through days of feeling like I'm crazy, but that we as a group are going to be pulling people off of their hamster wheels. We're going to be pulling them out of their confusion. We're going to be pulling them out of worrying about politics and worrying about the church, which, you know, keeps you so, it keeps you under their thumb
In the
is
cage.
almost,
Mhm.
yeah, but because they don't want you to be able to free your mind, because if you did, you would know that you are just one link away from source. And so we are starting to clear the leaves. We're starting to unravel the mystery of it, but I think there's going to be some of us that assist in that for other people, and it's not even going to be that we have to really prove our point. We will just by showing them, like, this one dreams and I channel, and you know, that one, I mean, we all have, it's those tassels that when we come together, you form the strongest rope there is. And that's how we're going to pull people along, or not pull people, but, you know, wake them up. And no one is any more important than the other, because we're all needed.
Yeah, and you hit on it very clearly of the most, it's not about moving another person, it's not about shifting and changing anything but self, because our direction comes, it's important to find our direction from within. That's the only place it can be found. We can recognize our truth in another, and we can, it's like recognizing the taste of your reflection. I'm seeing you, like, you look in a mirror and you taste that it is correct, right? We can interface with another, and that other can show us a reflection of ourselves that is so correct. And we're like, yes, that's it. It's cardamom. Like, I didn't know, you know, it's like, you know, you taste a soup, like you're tasting your own soup, whatever. You're making the soup. You are the soup, and you are tasting it, and you're like, what does it need? What does it have? And someone else like holds up like a card that says cardamom on it, and you're like, yes, that's it. That's the thing. And it's their recognition of you that clarifies. Like, it gives us clues and hints, but it still originates from inside of us. Even if that bit of information came from outside of our bodies, we can, it's our recognition of it as truth or not truth that has to continue to come from inside of ourselves and not outside of us. Yeah. Does this be? Yeah. Yeah.
Can't make people though. That's all, you gotta be a lighthouse and not a tugboat.
Correct.
And it came to mind. You can guide people there, but you can't force them to go there and make them go there, I think.
And the lighthouse has to be built off of the instructions that you got. It's not like you, I'm seeing like, I don't know, like a Lego kit, right? Or like a model airplane kit or whatever. Like, you get a kit, right? And you have all the materials and you have the directions. And it's like you get a model airplane kit and you're like, well, I'm going to build a tugboat. And it's like, no, do not build a tugboat because you think other people need a tugboat. Everyone's telling you you need to be a tugboat. It's like, you got the materials, the gifts, the instructions, the surroundings to support an airplane, right? There's no water around. Like, build the thing that you have to for yourself, not the thing, like, and if a lighthouse is what you are told to be building, then that is absolutely it for you. And if you're like, I don't know what to do, those boats are just crashing into everything over there. Like, I have stuff that, like, I could make, it would work. I could see that. And you get halfway through the building process and you're like, oh, I don't have all the pieces and materials. Like, my environment is not the right thing. It's not supportive of this. It's, you know, if you're not meant to build that lighthouse. Does that make sense? Does that feel clear? We have to follow the instructions that are given to us. This is the importance of clearing the leaves, because if we don't clear the leaves, we're following instructions that are not ours and are made up in our minds, instead of actually taking it from the ground, taking it from straight from the horse's mouth. This is the value and importance of cleansing and clarifying our internal channel, our internal connection with the divine, our internal connection with source, however we receive our own personal guidance. And it's also the value of practicing that, so that way we know if it's not right. Yeah.
I want to ask about the process of clarity, like you're saying, because I was thinking too about with the shadow work, or, I mean, sometimes you see reflections that you don't want to accept as yourself, you know, and then you can, it's very easy to kind of like just tell yourself the things you want to hear and like get caught up in that cycle, and it might even feel like you're doing the work you should be doing, but you're actually kind of working against yourself and like causing like a split and a dissociation. So, which is not going to help with elegance or poise at all.
Definitely not. Very clunky.
So yeah, I guess I wonder a lot about how to achieve that clarity of like, yeah, where the direction's coming from, almost maybe like a harmony from within and without, or
Yeah, there is a certain easefulness that flows of. There is a certain usefulness that flows. Yeah, I feel like even as you say that, yeah, I feel like there's more. Do you have more? Is there more to say there? I feel like there's more to say there.
maybe the elegance is maybe that is like the, if you feel off balance, that's kind of like a sign that something isn't lined up, like within and without. So maybe the elegance, like that's, because, well, and two, yeah, we're talking about like the tools, like there's this tool and that tool, but it's not necessarily like the function of the tool, but the harmony of the tools coming together, working together. And so I think you can get that feeling easily, like inside, like from conscience, I think it's conscience, or like from outside if something feels off, but so that's all. I don't know. The balance maybe is kind of like a signpost for if you're seeing yourself clearly.
Yeah, I think that's the tricky part that feels the confusion is there's so many ways to not see yourself clearly. It can be obscured. I feel like seeing self, like this concept of, I know we're not literally looking at ourselves, but it feels like that is not the way to judge if it feels correct and in alignment or not. It feels like almost like a body, not even a body intuition, but like our movements being supported, like our daily habits and routines in harmony with the environment around us. Because if we're not in the correct environment, it's not gonna work. We're gonna be stubbing our toe all over the place. We'll be running into stuff. It'll be going very poorly. We've all seen that. They're showing me this concept of this human that I worked for at one point in time, and it's like, man, everything went wrong for her. Everything. And I'm just like, girl, you're not in the right place. Like, you need to move. Like, I don't know where you need, like, just like scrap it. Like, you're trying, it's overworking those beautiful gold links. Like, you work something hard enough and it disintegrates in your hands. It just falls apart. When things feel aligned and are correct, there's an easefulness of flow of like a surprising, like, oh, I just said yes and it just popped out of my body before it's like, it's easeful. That's not to be said that that fear can't hold us back from this place also, because our fear also will confuse this clarity and flow. Our fear will mimic this incorrect environment. Our fear will mimic this incorrect environment if our bodies are not trained enough to have a willingness to accept what's good for ourselves. It's like, if we are on a diet of so much processed stuff and we have not seen a vegetable for days or years, you know what I mean? I mean, this is an extreme or a superlative or an extra example, but if we put green beans into our body, it will break us. Like, we will break. Our tummies will feel bad, right? Of like, we know that foods of the earth were built to nourish the machines that we are in charge of. And yet, if we are so departed from something that is good from us consistently for long enough, sometimes if we get a taste of it, it's a retraining process. It's a retraining process. And it takes time and patience and a willingness and a groundedness, and the important thing is to spread the tablecloth wide enough that if you are reintegrating wholeness into your life, that not everything is changing all at once, because then you will lose your mind almost, or you'll lose your perception of like gravity. It's like in Top Gun, where they're in the flat spin, like, you know, they're spinning so much that I don't know what it is, you know, like in an airplane, the little dial that shows that your wings are level, and this actually wouldn't be right if it was the flat spin, which I said, but like, if you're twirling so much, if you're in an avalanche, right, people who are in avalanches, their inner ear gets so shook up that they don't know which way is up or down, because they have,
caught in a wave.
yes, if you're, exactly. So there's an importance of like, if you're caught in the wave, of like, bring a surfboard, like you can do that change, but find a way to do it with a certain amount of structure, stability, like balance. Like, if you have one of those super tall cranes at work sites, like, they come on a vehicle, but then the vehicle puts those little feet down to stabilize it, and it's like, you gotta spread your feet out a little bit before you go. Yeah. And this is the value of, some people will be able to do this effortlessly and have if you're in a rhythm and routine of this, it is helpful and it's fine, of like, I come here, I experience a new thing, I change, I grow, da-da-da-da-da. But if it is a big shift all at once that we're experiencing quite often in this day and age, of like radical, big, major shift all of a sudden, it feels really important to pull back from those things that unground you and to sink deeper into the things that keep you feeling stable. Because if you're making a huge change, you want to give yourself the most chance for success you can have. Does that make sense? I can't remember the question.
What was your question?
I don't know.
I did think of it's talking about working toward like a sense of balance, and so kind of the story. But I was hiking a lot every day, and some days I'd hike and like it reminded me of the knees and elbows thing you said. Like sometimes I would kind of be moving like out of urgency instead of like from a place of like drive and like power, sort of. And so sometimes I still feel, I don't know, if you get going without like centering yourself, even just like on a daily basis, like that has kind of become a thing, I think, that I've told myself is like trying to move from power and not urgency, because urgency feels like you're not doing it right yet, or like you're kind of like with the shadow, like there's always like another thing, like you have to urgently seek, like move towards something rather than like moving from a place of balance. But then that begs the question of how do you get balance in the first place?
Or that urgency though is environment informed. It is, the urgency comes from outside, even though and our insides adopt that into our bodies. But if we trace it back, it will always be coming from outside of our bodies. Whereas the place of power, the place of embodied wholeness, like it's a font from within that will never run dry. And if it does ebb and flow, it is responsibly informing us how we should also be moving. We can trust the ebb and flow if it comes from within us. Whereas if we are in urgency culture, or just that mode of being, of allowing our internal choices and impetus, and if we are allowing our sovereignty to be informed at all by our surroundings, we have already lost the game. It's the thing of the lighthouse. If you are told to be a lighthouse, then it doesn't matter if you end up finishing it or not. If it's under construction for 40 years, it's all in correctness, as opposed to if you are, meant to be a different structure, a bakery, and you're building a lighthouse. Like you've already, that's environment informed, and it's like not reading the instructions that came in the box and disregarding the shape of the pieces, disregarding the shape of yourself, disregarding the energetic body tools, that the way your energetic body can be tooled. So we can find our authenticity and wholeness in our energy body being used correctly when we feel in alignment with the tasks that surround us. Yeah, it feels like it's a feeling inside of our bodies as opposed to like a clarity of reflection. Does this is this making sense? Yeah. Does anyone have any other questions they brought tonight? We can stay on this trend and flow for sure, and we can also
Well, I know when we were trying to come up with ideas and stuff like that, we were talking about like self-love for Valentine's Day and type, kind of.
Yeah.
So I don't really have like a question, just kind of, like a topic that we might be able to talk about or something, but more try to, find that within ourselves, because I know sometimes people, you want to hear like somebody say you're pretty, but I'm trying like more like
You just tell yourself that.
Feel
where it can
that.
kind of come from internal
Yeah.
instead of external sources, I guess. Kind of. Not really a question. Just-
No.
I feel that affirmations and meditation is what's going to get all of us and
Is there
where
anything-
we are gonna know if our gut is going in the right
something
direction.
like the divine feminine could tell us about that type of care, self-care?
Yeah. It does need to come from within us, and this is the concept of, the affirmations that you mentioned and are talking about is, I see the image of like a woman soothing a child, or even, blessing and praying over children of like, you will grow to be strong and smart and loved, and it's seeding these things in ourselves that, again, it has to come from us, come from recognizing the deficits we feel in our bodies, the things we long to hear from others. It does need to be a practice of giving those things to ourselves. This is one thing our animals do for us, is they often ask for the things that we also need. And there is a connection, there's like an agreement or something that we make with animals when we choose to care for them. It is like not like a contract, but it's less like a contract than like an energetic flow, like a linking up or something. It looks like an infinity symbol of like, you have an animal, there's a consent, and it's like you're each parts of this infinity symbol, and then you link up like this. So what you give to your animal somehow comes back like a wave and just washes back into you. And your animal can clearly ask for something, and it's usually it's the thing that you need yourself the most, but refuse to give to yourself, whether it's because you were told you do not deserve to receive that thing, or it doesn't even matter whatever reason. It doesn't matter whatever reason at all. The point is that you're getting it somehow. It's like blending up microgreens and putting it in mac and cheese for kids. Like, you're gifting particular energy or presence to a pet or to an animal is how you kind of like sneak it in your own diet, so to speak. We asked that question one more time. It was like, what can the divine
Like information they could give us on making that like connection, decide, like other than affirmation and things like that, to kind of make it stronger, like stronger self,
how to strengthen self?
or strengthen the self-love in yourself too.
I'm seeing again, like reaching out for these parts of self that we've scattered far away from us. That this is the biggest act of self-love. This like coming to wholeness is this practice of, and now it's like, I don't know if you guys are familiar with, I don't know if it's a parable or the story, whatever, of Jesus like welcoming the sheep back to his own self, of like Jesus is a shepherd and all the sheep, and like welcoming the sheep home, like the going out and finding the lost and the lame ones. Like he will leave the collection of, he will leave the flock in search of one missing sheep. This is how we need to be with ourselves also. This coming to wholeness is the biggest way we can lay claim to ourselves, because fragmentation of self will not serve our collective body and being. We can try and work from a place of fragmentation, work from a place of, I don't know how to say this other than fragment of self, splitting apart. We can try and take the biggest chunk we have and drive it around town, but there will not be a full enjoyment until we have a completion of who we are. It is laying claim to the parts of us that we have disgraced and discarded in childhood, on the playground, right? That part of you that you do not claim because she was embarrassing, or that part of you that you deny because he did not fit, and you know, whatever these parts of ourselves are, whatever, whether it's worthiness or squeamishness, whatever reason causes or allows that separation to happen, the greatest way we can love ourselves is to keep collecting ourselves, and pulling ourselves home, because it's so important. If you can bring a part of yourself home that you have forsaken, I mean, hear the word for forsaken, like to cast out, to wash yourself of, to it's so like cutting off your own arm. It feels rudimentary almost, and extreme, but dedicating ourselves to finding these parts of ourselves, to checking in with the flock and feeling a wholeness, to do the head count, to like feel how complete an area or a part of self feels, and knowing that there's something missing. You can have everything you want, and this goes back to that piece of jewelry that's going out into the world of like, you can be at the workshop, right, and you're tinkering and doing all the things, and you take it out in the world and something is missing, something's not right, and it's just, but only when you take it out in the world, only when you try and operate in the world from a place of wholeness or from a place of authentic self, and find yourself lacking yet again, will you be like, oh, it kind of gives you the name of the sheep that you're looking for or something like that. Does this make sense? And that dedication to be like, damn, like I thought I had them all. I tied them up like kids on a string at preschool crossing the street. Like I thought I had all my ducks in a row, and it's like, okay, that's fine. We're missing, like, who are we missing? Count off everyone. Like, okay, we're missing 13. Like, okay, and then you go out and you're like, 13, you know? This is the greatest thing it can do, because it, it's that concept of if it's not for one of us, it's not for all of us. If one person doesn't have this part of, if one part of self doesn't have the enjoyment that the group is enjoying, then you stop the parade, you stop the party, and you're like, hang on, I gotta go find the person. I gotta go find this part of myself. Because you really, and this will do, we can't really enjoy ourselves unless we are like collectively embodied, unless we are like all accounted for. Yeah.
To build on that, is that something that could possibly come from like a previous life or things like that, or are we starting fresh from this reality and this?
It can come from past lives. You're not, when you're born into this life, there is a concept of you start with the most, the most you can, right? And we often lose a little bit along the way. Not to say that you can't start from a place of complete wholeness, but it kind of defeats the purpose. I feel like that doesn't happen that often. I feel like if that happened, it was way in the past or something. Like, I don't know if there's this place of like reincarnation 0 or like reincarnation number 1 or incarnation number 1 for all of us or something like this. That's not the point. There always will be part of self to look for, because until we are oneness, until we are, we ourselves are fragments of the same whole, is the concept that I'm seeing. And until we are all in that whole self, until we are all collected up, which is what we're working towards, until we're all collected up, nobody be whole.
Until we die.
Yeah. Or I don't think that's the only option though. I don't think it's the only option. I think there's this concept of like, it's like when you've got batter in a bowl and you like take a spatula and scrape the sides and like collect it all together. There is this concept. I think that we have the capacity to hold that space on this planet while there's life. I'm not sure what it looks like. But it happens. And here the Mayans figured it out. And like, you know those civilizations that like disappear, is like, where did they go? It's like they did it. They got it. They like scraped the edge of the bowl and it was like, okay, everything's right here. It's like, and there is this energy of like herding cats, or like trying to photograph a family of young children and get everyone to look at the same place at the same time. It's like, I thought I had you, like, come on, like, you know, you go back, and it's only, part of it is that this is what trains us to embody the lovingness and the patience and the kindness and the peace and the graciousness that it takes, the mindfulness, the cognition, the ability to still our chaotic thoughts. It takes this kind of repetition and over and over and over and over to bring people, to bring ourselves in this way. Does this make sense? But to answer your question about, yes, we can seed fragmentation in previous lives. And often it's easier, it's not always easier to like recollect a fragment of self that's been in a past life, but if it's especially traumatic, if it was seated in like a deep trauma, it's easier to recollect if there's an increase in distance and time between that space, because the emotional wounding isn't so severe. Does this, yeah?
Sounds like a lesson you have to learn for this life, to try to collect the other ones.
Yeah, it can just be like a light. It doesn't have to be a cut quite so deep, right? It's like if you cut off your arm in a past life and you came in this life and you just like have a wound here, like a smaller, like the wound is healed up a little. Like you still have some work to do, but sometimes distance can make it easier. You know, it's like you've already pre-trained. Like if we're taking a picture of like 5 young kids together and you've like spent a couple of past lives really working with one kid and be like, okay, I'm gonna do this, and you're gonna look at the camera, right? And then you spend another, it's like there's a higher likelihood of, you know, sometimes you let that kid look away while you check in with these 2 over here who you've spent less time with, and you're like, okay, I'm gonna hold your attention, and then I'm gonna say this word and this one's gonna come right in. It's gonna fall right into place, you know, and it's okay to like come into a life and you don't have, you know, this one's not on board in this life, but you're like, it's fine. I know that Timmy's got it because we've worked on this a lot and Timmy's totally got it under control. You know what I mean? Where it's like these 2, like, these are fresh wounds. They're like straight out of, you know, they haven't been in class that long. Like, you know, I'm gonna give them the extra love, support, and attention that they require. because that's where we're at right now. And it's not that, you know, one child is good or bad. Like, they're different. They come from different circumstances and different backgrounds. And the same thing to be said for the parts of ourselves that are lost and forsaken. You know, there are different reasons, there are different patterns, there are different likelihoods of what will bring them back in, and whatever it is, it doesn't matter, because what matters is that we continue to go out and step out into the world and look for the parts of ourselves that are missing. It's really the most gracious. It's being present. It's like, it's showing up. It's I don't know, it's like the hardest, not the hardest thing you could, it is one of the, it's like the hardest thing you can do, because if, you know, you're fighting futility, but giving that attention to yourself is what's important. And you're like, because wait till next week, like, next time of like, the next one is, she's like, beating your own drum, and I can't remember the words around that one, of like, when you have everyone looking at the right spot at the right time, like, look at what you can do. Like, it's just one step in the process of like, and then, I don't know, you can accomplish so much more, but it's the same thing of like, it's just another link, it's another link. Like, what is the end goal? What does it look like? Is it a full bodysuit of armor? I don't know. Is it like a chainmail blanket that covers all of us? Is it like, is it a link? Is it a necklace that like encircles the whole world? Yes, it is. It's that one with everyone like clipped in.
With little charms.
Yes. Yes, with all the all the charms are clipped into this web. That's what it is. But it's like, if you're constantly moving and shaking and like everyone's connection, it's like everyone hang on to the web. But if it moves around, you like move it around enough to like stretch to this person over here. This person's like, well, my arm got tired, and it's like, no, like, okay, like, I know your arm's tired. What support can I bring to your space right now to welcome you back into this experience again? And it's this concept of like, we all just have to be hanging on at the same time, and then the circuit completes, and then we get zapped up somewhere, I don't know, you know, it's like, and then we disappear from the face of the planet because we've achieved it. It's heaven on earth, and we're transported in time to a future experience, or I don't know, to what is it, to ubiquity. Like, when something is ubiquitous, it is everywhere all at once at one time. Like, we are, which one could argue is source? Everywhere all at once, consciousness, unity. Anyway, yeah. But we only will have a capacity to have patience with the network, with other people, with the world, if we can build this in ourselves. So the best way that we can love and heal the world, the best way that we can love and heal our community, is by doing that same thing with parts of ourselves. This is why we have fragmentation in parts of self that we, I hear litter and like throw out, like we litter on the side of the road. It's because they are breadcrumbs. They are literal breadcrumbs to back home.
We've been so force-fed that it's either good or bad, but really there's an in-between. There's the just experience without judgment, without sorrow for yourself or pity or anger. Just recognizing that was supposed to happen. That was the decision I made. Now let's make it right.
Let's embody it, let's integrate, like the right, it doesn't even need to be right. Let's hold it.
Yeah.
Let's find a way to hold that capacity. It's, yeah. It's like, do you guys know Cinderella and Gus Gus, the mouse who's like trying to carry all the, I don't know if it's corn or cheese. It looks like cheese, but I think it's corn kernels. And it's this concept of like, or yoga, like you relax your body and you like increase your capacity. You stretch even further. And then you relax even more. stretch even further. Yeah. It doesn't even have, yeah, you're right. It doesn't have to be right though. Right doesn't have to be the thing. Yeah.
Somebody I've read talked about wholeness as opposed to perfection, like them being different things. And so perfection is like, right, there's a discrimination between right and wrong, but wholeness is like an acceptance of all of it as like necessary, or right, not having judgment, which is difficult. but-
Yeah, of course.
Because it's also, I don't think it's a bad thing necessarily to have like some, you know, you have to like be able to discriminate to like function. But yeah, I think it was interesting, the noted difference between like perfection and wholeness.
Mm. Yeah, I hear like ding 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 like yeah. Yeah. One can call wholeness perfection, like the version of perfection that means not right or wrong, but like nothing out of place. Like that kind of perfection.
Yeah, because with perfection you choose some things and leave some others out, but that's not the way reality works. Reality is like paradoxical in a way, so to embrace all of it is a very different approach than, yeah, trying to do one thing and not another. It's like,
Mm.
but that being said, there's some things I don't want to do, so.
And this is fine as long as it's coming from the instruction inside of your body.
Well,
You know,
no.
if it's not meant for you to do.
Some stuff you know you need to do, you can't do though, but being aware of it, it starts to minimize over time when you start to see how it affects you. Like I had something I knew I needed to quit in November, and I just hung on to it, and I finally, in January, it just came to me that it's done, and it was done. But I was aware of it from November, and that just helps you kind of do, so
Yeah.
you don't have to accept everything immediately, you can let it be a process.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah, it can happen all at once.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no chance of being perfectly whole.
You're saying
Raise
you're
your
not-
hand
where-
if you think-
Where you followed the steps, you've gotten to the building blocks, you've got everything, and now you feel like this is the peak of where you can possibly be. Like, how can you live like that? Like,
Mm.
I don't think there's
Yeah, 'cause
possibility
there's
of
always
being
a little
completely
kid
whole.
that will turn it.
Because you look at other people and think they have their stuff together, you know, they look like they're,
Nobody does.
you never know,
I'm gonna say
they're
that's like a
knowing
surface.
that no one's ever going to be completely whole with themselves. So it seems a little discouraging sometimes.
Mm. Yeah, but this is, yeah.
Working toward a process you will never complete.
Yes.
The definition of that. Feels like
That's the
it's,
thing, it's not the completion point, it's the process. Like this is, saying this is no reason to stop trying. Cause there's almost this concept of like, in trying, that is achieving the thing. Sometimes the goal is not about the goal, it's about what the goal makes you do to get there.
Experience.
Yeah,
And that too.
yeah.
Right, that's what we're doing, is like living, we're not ever gonna, there's never gonna be a static moment where it doesn't move on.
Yeah.
So it's like, when we get these, I think abstractions that pull us away from the reality of like the moment. But those are also necessary. Yeah. It's like-
How's everyone feeling? There's time ahead of us before it turns 8 o'clock where it is like 7:30, but I also don't want to be too rigidly held bound to time. I'm learning how to flow. Painfully. Not painfully, but. Is there anything else that we'd like to explore tonight? Okay, if there are no more questions, I'll go ahead and close this space. Does everyone feel complete?
I don't know the wording that we're supposed to use to close it out.
That's okay. I
Okay.
just like no, you're good. This is like I have my opening stuff and it opens this connection. And
Are there any other,
oh yeah, okay, no, yeah, we can ask that.
what is,
Any other questions?
yeah, are there any other questions that they want us to know the
Yeah,
answers
something
to?
like that. I don't know the whole
Yeah.
closing out question.
We don't have to do that. That's something that I feel like Bonnie has done for my own.
Okay.
Like, I don't want to miss anything. Like, what if there's something important that doesn't come through? So someone asked sometime, like, yeah, is there anything else that we need to hear tonight? Because it helps put my personal, but it is not about how I personally feel I'm practicing sitting with discomfort. But anyway,
So is there anything else that we need to be told tonight?
I hear no, that the actual truth here is in the middle of the floor I hear on a button, on a dime. I'm like, I don't understand it. They're like, they're not meant to understand it and neither are you. Okay. No. No.
I think we touched on the end, and it's something that hit me like a couple weeks ago, and it was that there is no point to, like, there's no point to being alive other than to just be alive and learn, and it's kind of depressing because we're kind of raised thinking that there's a point to get a job, get married, to retire, to go on trips, to do whatever, and there's just a deep feeling of that's not the point of any of it, it's just the experience of all that stuff that matters, and I think we kind of touched on that, but at the very end here.
That's funny and interesting because it makes me feel like, well, there's the point. Like the button on the dime in the middle of the floor. Like there's the point. Yeah, I'm not sure how to receive that. I think there is a concept of a space and truth that has meaning and purpose and an expansion and an expression of divinity. It's one we can choose to step towards or forsake. You're right. I feel like it depends on like where you are in a cycle or something of it's like where you are in the lunar cycle. There's either no moon or there's a very different like the version of the moon that you see shifts and changes depending on your where you're standing, what your perspective is. And on some nights it looks like there's no moon at all. But there's a deeper knowingness in our bodies of, even though we might not see the moon in the sky, there's like a willingness and a gentleness in the tides. There are things that are happening in our environment around us that are inexplicable without the presence of a moon. There are things that happen in our lives all around us that are inexplicable without the presence of source, God, universe, consciousness, like not consciousness, but non-dual experience. It's something that we're never going to be able to see, but like the tides, we will feel in our bodies. There is something out there for sure. It's just a matter of finding the way it shows up on your instrument panel. Like finding the way that gravity is logged. You can't see gravity, but you can measure it in certain components and aspects and shapes and forms. Do you feel that? Yeah. Does that bring anything else up for anyone, or? So, in love and light, I think our masters. Sorry, I hear wait. Does anyone else have anything? Because I hear wait. It's okay.
She did this to me before, and it was like right on the tip of my tongue that I hadn't spoke up before. So that's why I'm like, probably something with one of y'all.
All good. In love and light, yeah, they say you'll know you're acknowledged. Okay, in love and light, I thank our masters, teachers, and loved ones for their information and guidance. Amen, amen, amen. Records are closed. The last thing I hear is like a bell, like it's like a dinner bell or like a, you know how I don't know, people would ring like attention, I need attention, like ring a bell like this, that this is important to both know how to ring and how to hear, is the ringing of that bell. For yourself and for others, but you really need to know how it feels in yourself first, of like what ringing that bell is like and what hearing that bell is like